Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we're back in an episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on this episode, we'll discuss playing a Genestealer Corrupted House gang in the Aranthian Succession. We'll discuss the benefits of playing in the Aranthian Succession, as well as provide a 2,400 point starting roster, detail how you'll be able to play this and develop this gang as the campaign continues, and provide critical information that you can use in your very first campaign. So when it comes to the Genestealer cult corrupted gangs, a lot of people would ask, why would you want to play a Genestealer corrupted gang? Why not just play a regular Genestealer cult for the most part? And the only question I would have for you in response to that is, why wouldn't you want to? You kind of get the best of both worlds. You get to be able to use the weapons and equipment, as well as skills of the house that you're from, as well as take advantage of some of the cool things that Genestealer cults also have as well, and you both have that wonderful aspect to it. Plus, at the same time, if you really want to start actually converting your miniatures, you can actually make them look like the kind of weird, kind of hybrid kind of look between whatever house gang they have, as well as a Genestealer cult. They call this the Secundus look, is what they call this. And the reason why is because Hive Secundus, which is one of the major hives on Necromunda, was corrupted by the Genestealers, and that hive fell apart. Interesting enough, for the Aranthian Succession, narratively speaking anyways, it ends with Lady Hera actually escaping to Hive Secundus, which has actually been taken over by the Genestealer cult. So maybe there might be some future things coming down the pipe with Necromunda, with Hive Secundus. It'll be kind of neat to see if they actually do some upgrades with things like all the cult gangs, like Hell Chaos cultists, Genestealer cults, as well as Chaos corrupted gangs, Genestealer corrupted gangs, as well as Corpse Grinder cults. So if they manage to do that, that'd be really awesome to see what kind of new stuff they come up with it. So while we're still in the world of speculation, let's go on and talk about exactly why you would want to play these games by giving you our starting roster. Now, first of all, let's talk about the benefits of playing in the Aranthian Succession. The major benefit is the bump and increase of starting credits you have to create your gang. You can get anywhere between 2,000 and 2,400 credits. If you're staying exclusive in the Underhive, you only get 2,000 credits, but if you are venturing out of the Ash Waste, you get 2,400 credits. 4 of those credits can be used for vehicles as well as mounted fighters as well. Another benefit of the Aranthian Succession, you can double the number of champions that you can have in your gang as well. Now, granted, you do have to balance out the rest of your roster with that increase of champions, but you can make some really powerful, interesting, unique kind of builds with that in mind. For example, most gangs usually start off with 2 champions. Now you can go up to 4 with the Aranthian Succession rules. Now, when it comes to that increase of starting credit allowance, a lot of players get the negative idea of actually what they need to do is to have a quantity build. I mean, they need to double the size of their gangs, but you don't necessarily need to do that. In my opinion, the best way to use the new Aranthian Succession rules is to actually just stick with the same number of fighters you always do in a gang, which is anywhere between 8 to 10 fighters, and just fully equip them with everything they need to be successful. Give them really strong weapons, really good armor, and give them war gear to help them succeed on the tabletop. Things like photo goggles, respirators, grapnel launchers, chems, any kind of esoteric equipment like Medicaid kits, for example, or different chems you could use in order to help that out. Exotic beasts could also be an option now as well. And not only that, but you could also use this to actually fully upgrade your gangs as well in terms of their vehicles. You can get really loud vehicles with full upgrades of war gear. There's a lot of things you can do with this, and that's one of the benefits of actually being in the Aranthian Succession. So let's go and talk about the starting roster we're going to use for this one. Now, I'm going to do my starting roster a little bit differently in this video. Usually I have a scrolling credits type of vibe going through all the lists, but I actually want to kind of break it down by individual fighters this time around to talk about exactly how they will specifically help you out to be successful on the tabletop. Now, this list I like to call Double Skull Wargaming's the Obsidian Syndicate. Now, in case you're not sure who Double Skull Wargaming is, he is actually a fellow YouTuber on the platform who makes really awesome narrative battle reports. I mean, this guy's attention to detail is fantastic. He takes perfect screenshots. He also shows you the stats of what's going on. He shows you the dice rolls that's taking place. He does a really cool, kind of fun narrative fashion as well. He also has some really beautiful models and terrain that he actually uses on his channel as well. His production value is really good. In fact, a lot of gamers are starting to adopt some of the things that he's starting to do right now with his channel. Miniature Wargaming Montage, for example, does the same kind of dice rolling mechanic in his battle reports as Double Skull Wargaming did as well. In his battle reports, he actually created a House Delaque gang that was corrupted by the Genestealers, and he called the Obsidian Syndicate. And so because of that, I decided to kind of do this as a homage to him and kind of showcase some of the miniatures that he had in his gang with the certain equipment that they had, and I try to make an Aranthian Succession version of that. So let's go and talk about the individual fighters in your gang. So first of all, let's talk about your leader, which could be a Master of Shadow. This fighter is going to cost you 295 credits, and the reason why is because this fighter is equipped to kill. This guy's got mesh armor, giving a 5-up armor save, but he's also got a Master Crafted long rifle with the infrared sights. That way you can do some reliable long-range shooting. With that infrared sight, you'll be able to shoot in all conditions for visibility conditions as well, and your opponents will also not benefit from partial cover as well, which is really nice. You also got a stub gun with dum-dum rounds for a backup weapon. The thing about this character though is that the way that the Double Skull Wargaming equipped this guy with, he equipped him with a cameline cloak as well, so that way if he's standing completely still, your enemies will suffer a -2 to hit against this guy. And when you combine this with the evade skill that this fighter also has as well, your opponents are going to have a very hard time trying to hit this guy at distance. So this Master Shadow is quite literally what his name implies. He just kind of sticks around, hides, and just snipes at people left and right. Now this guy's also got the Secretariat Whispers upgrade, and the reason why is that way you can get the Psychic Familiar, which is really good. It allows you to re-roll any failed psychic test that you take, which is an awesome thing that the Genestealer cults have access to. But at the same time, you can also take a willpower test and actually dodge a shot that's being taken at your character too. So when you combine all the factors going against your enemies trying to shoot this character, and you got a Second Familiar on top of this, this guy is completely safe from being shot at. Now because they have the Secretariat Whispers upgrade, they do have the Secretariat Mastery skill as well as Non-Shaken Psyker special rule as well. You are giving this fighter the Evade skill, which is that way they get additional protection from being shot at. And they're going to have the Chronomancy Discipline, which means they have the Flicker special ability, which means that once per battle they can take a third action. They also have the Zen Shootist power, and if you manage to get that off, that character is going to have +2 Ballista skill regardless of what any kind of factors are being involved. Really good when you combine that with the Mastercrafted Long Rifle, and you can re-roll that shot if you manage to hit miss as well. And you also have Lucky Aura with this power as well, so if your opponents do manage to hit you, you can make them re-roll that die to see if they can actually miss your character, which is absolutely fantastic. So this Master Shadow, this guy's whole job is to stick back far away, snipe at fools, and just continue being safe from any long-range fire that might come his way. In this gang, you also have 2 Phantoms as well. Phantom number 1 is going to cost 265 credits. This fighter is equipped with armor undersuit as well as mesh armor, so that way they have a 4-up armor save as well as a web gun. With that strength 5 template weapon that puts people to sleep, that thing is absolutely amazing. And we're also equipping this fighter with a stub gun with dum-dum rounds as a backup weapon as well as photo goggles, so that way this guy can fight in all conditions in spite of visibility. And you're going to give this guy the obfuscation skill, Rumor Monger, which basically means you pass an intelligence check, you can actually take away D3 reputation points from enemy and give it to you instead, which if you're going to do this in the campaign can really mess around with your enemies, and it's got a really cool game mechanic in order to screw them up. Now Phantom number 2 is going to cost you 205 credits. This fighter's got an armor undersuit as well as mesh armor. This character is also packing a Mastercrafted Long Rifle with an infra sight as well, so that way they can shoot in all long distance and all visibility conditions, and your opponents also don't benefit from cover too well. They also got a stub gun with dum-dum rounds for backup weapon as well as the Overwatch skill from the Cutting Tree, so that way they can interrupt enemy activations and open fire with their long rifle, which could really screw up your opponent's plan as well. Your Phantom number 1 is actually going to be doing a lot of the close combat assaulting with the rest of your gang. We'll talk about that when we go through the rest of the list. That's why this person's armed with a web gun. And your Phantom number 2 is going to basically pair it up with your Master Shadow, so that way they can get that long range suppression and shooting from far away. Now up next, you're also going to have a Road Doc. You're going to get a hang around for this gang. It's going to cost you 50 credits. This person's got a last pistol with the Medicaid kit as well as the Medicaid skill. Once again, with that new rules update from the new rulebook, Medicaid is actually quite nice. You can restore wounds. You can also take off flesh wounds as well. Medicaid kit does that as well. And this guy can also help out any of your fighters who manage to roll a critical injury as well. So you're going to use this guy to be a hang around for your gang. This person is worth their weight in gold, and 50 credits is not too much of a price to ask for all the benefits this guy brings to the tabletop as well. So up next, you're also going to have a Not Ghoul in this gang as well. This fighter's going to cost you 330 credits. This one's kind of a hefty fighter. You give this fighter armor undersuit as well as mesh armor to give him that 4-up armor save as well as Serpent's Fangs. That is a paired attack, so those Serpent Fangs will get twice as many attacks. They also got that phase special rule, so armor doesn't stand anything against these things. In fact, in one of Double Skull Wargaming's video reports, it actually showed this Not Ghoul almost wreck an enemy vehicle just with the Serpent Fangs by itself. So that part is kind of nice. Plus, they're equipped with a flechette pistol with solid and fleshblade ammo, so that way it's a silent traded weapon. It's also got rapid fire and a silent weapon as well. At the same time, you can also take out people with toxic attacks, so that thing is also very nice as well. You're giving this fighter the photo goggles, so that way they can see in all vision visibility conditions, as well as a cult icon, so that way they can actually activate 2 fighters at the same time rather than the one. And you're also giving this guy the catfall ability, so that way they don't take any damage from falling. This is going to be useful for both in the Underhive, so that way you can engage enemy fighters very quickly, as well as boarding enemy vehicles in the ash waste as well. So it's kind of a nice synergized kind of build, really revolves around close combat and causing all kinds of problems for your enemies. Up next, you're going to have an Aberrant. It's going to cost you 160 credits as well. And because you are a Genestealer Corrupted gang, you're allowed to recruit one Aberrant in your gang. You give this guy Mesh Armor for a 5-up armor save. They do have the Unstoppable trait, so they can not have to worry about flesh wounds too much. And you're giving this guy 2 close combat weapons. First of all is a chain sword, and the second one is a shock whip. And the reason why is because this Aberrant's already strong enough as it is, so basic close combat weapons is going to do this thing a lot of good. The chain sword is great because you get +1 to hit in close combat. Plus you have the parry ability, which is a nice defensive aspect to that. The shock whip is also good too, because that way you can attack opponents at distance with that shock whip using the versatile trait, and also cause a lot of problems that way. So this thing is dangerous at medium to close range, close combat. Even if it doesn't charge, it can still hit you with the shock whip. So this thing is an absolute beast and a wrecking ball in close combat. Now from there, you're going to have 2 Zeitgeists in this one as well. So Zeitgeist number 1, this fighter's going to cost you 185 credits. This fighter's got mesh armor, so that way they have a 5-up armor save, as well as a Psychomancer's harness. Now that's going to be nice because they're going to get +2 inches to the movement characteristic, as well as paired Psychomantic claws that have the phase ability weapons trait, so that way they can cause all kinds of problems for enemy against armor. Now they do have the Psychotarget Mastery, as well as non-sanctioned Psyker, special rules attached to them. Same thing with Hot-Headed and Fuzzle, Fast Learner. And for this fighter, what you can do is you give them the Pyromancy discipline as well, so that they can do some long-range shooting with some psychic powers. One of them is going to be Force Shield, of course, Fire Shield, which is going to make your character immune from blaze attacks, which will be all kinds of awesome for that. And the second thing that's also going to help you out too is Wall of Flame, which means you can put out a 3 to 5 inch blast template anywhere on the battlefield to kind of seal off your opponents from being accessed. This guy's going to be good to use in order to protect your flanks, also set people on fire, so that thing is going to be really, really awesome. Your gang will also have a second Zeitgeist as well. It's also going to cost you 185 credits, and equipped exactly the same as Zeitgeist number 1. In fact, everything's exactly the same except for one thing, which is the Psychic Discipline. In this case, you're going to give this guy Telekinesis, and the reason why you're going to want that is because you get Fist of Fury, which has unarmed attacks, which is great, but not all the end all to be all. But the real reason why you want this guy is because of Force Shield, which means you'll be able to give everyone within 3 inches of this fighter +1 to armor saves. Now, unfortunately, Zeitgeist willpower stats are horrible. They're at 8+, so very rarely will you get those off. But based on the alliance you're going to make with this gang, which is going to be with the House Tie, you're going to be getting access to the Omni Auto Null, and you're going to fix that, not Null, with the Telepath. What you're going to do is you're going to fix that problem the Zeitgeists have with that low willpower by using that Telepath in order to boost up their willpower stats so they can get those powers triggered more easily, and also really help out your gang at the same time. So you also have 2 ghosts in this gang. Ghost number 1 is going to cost you 125 credits. This fighter's going to be having mesh armor as well as a long rifle with infra sights as well as a stub gun, and this will be your gang specialist. You're going to pair up this fighter with your Master Shadow. You're going to have 3 long rifles in this gang, so that way you can do some reliable long range shooting as well as also taking out characters who are behind cover, because the infra sight's going to really help you out with that as well. And being a specialist is going to only help this guy develop better and to be more deadly as time goes on. Now, ghost number 2 is actually equipped very basically with mesh armor as well as auto gun and stub gun and photo goggles. That guy's to cost 95 credits, and that guy's more of a close support range fighter. You give him the photo goggles, they can see in all visibility types, and an auto gun is not a slouchy weapon either, especially if you manage to put some really good ammunition with that weapon as the campaign continues. Now, the last 2 fighters in your core gang is going to be your Shadows, which cost 85 credits. This is one of your juvie level fighters. They have mesh armor for a 5-up armor save, and they're packing 3 stub guns. And the reason why they're able to take all 3 is because you give this guy the extra arm upgrade from being by being a Genestealer Corrupted gang. All your juvies can actually have that extra upgrade for 30 credits. Now, normally I would not recommend doing this because it doesn't actually add all that kind of extra effect to it. But you know, if you got 85 credits to spare, 30 credits to spare, it's a fun way to do this. And imagining a guy shooting it 3 times with stub guns is all kinds of awesome as well, especially once this guy levels up, because not only do they take their 3rd arm with them as they level up as well. You can make this guy into another Phantom and give them a heavy weapon, and they can shoot that thing because it's cheaper than Suspensors. So that part is kind of nice as well. You're also going to give this guy the Fast Learner trait because it's automatically the skill they already come with. Now, at the same time, we're also going to have a Wraith in this gang, which is the House Delaque vehicle cruise, which was a release from the Necromunda Apocrypha Bullet Road Run rules that came out free on the Wargaming community page. You equip this guy with a medium vehicle. It's going to be tracked, so that way they can deal with all difficult terrain. It's also going to have a heavy flamer attached to it, which is one of the upgrades that the Delaques actually have in that supplement. You also give this headlights so that we can see in the darkness, as well as a ram so that you can smash enemy vehicles, a transport bed to carry your fighters, as well as nitro burners to give this thing a +1 to its movement characteristic. Now for your alliance on this one, you're going to take a House Delaque alliance with the House of Tai. And the reason why is because House Tai has a strong alliance with House Delaque. And since you're a House Delaque gang that has been Genestealer Corrupted, that's going to greatly help you out in case you got to take any alliance tests with this gang. Now with this one, of course, because House Tai is a noble house, it means you can make allies with law-abiding or outlaw gangs. And by being a Genestealer cult gang, you're automatically outlawed as well. Now some of the benefits you get, of course, is psychic training, which means you can choose one fighter with the Psychoteric Mastery, Sanctioned Psyker, or Non-Sanctioned Psyker special rule, and that fighter knows one more additional psychic power than normal. In this situation, you give your Master Shadow the additional power of Lucky Aura, so that way if anybody does manage to hit them, even though impossible as it may sound, you can actually make them re-roll it, so that way they can definitely don't get shot at. At the same time, you also have access to the Untitled Coven, and of course, if you're facing against an enemy gang that has a higher gang rating than you, then you must include this delegation, or you test the alliance. So, as good as the Untitled Coven is, I'm not sure why you would want to bring them on the tabletop, but you know, needs be, I suppose. Now there are some drawbacks with this alliance, but in all fairness though, the drawbacks are actually quite tame for what this gang can do for you. First of all, you have one called Disturbing Visions, where basically a random fighter must pass a willpower test or begin the battle with a flesh wound, and if not, you have to test the alliance. And all things considered, that's actually kind of a tame kind of a drawback, considering like the Syndicate is actually a horrible alliance because of some things it can do to your gang. Now at the same time, there's another one called the Cost of Lies, and basically if you're rolling for the scenario, you roll a double, then your opponent gets to choose. If not, you don't want to do that, you can test the alliance, of course, but like I said before, all things considered, a lot of these drawbacks aren't really all that bad. And the reason why it's not so bad is because you get access to the Untitled Coven. You get two fighters with this group. One of them is called the Untitled Telepath, which has a refractor field for 5 armor save, as well as a shock stave for close combat. They also have a control caller, which means that if her powers are active, then the null's powers are not active, and then vice versa. It's a very interesting game mechanic. She is a sanctioned psyker, so she can reroll willpower tests in case she fails her telepathy abilities, and she also has the overseer skill as well. Now she does have the telepathy or discipline, which means that she has fearful aura, which means your opponents must pass a willpower test in order to charge her, and the two telepath abilities to give her are mind control, so that way you can control enemy fighters and them shoot their own friends, and unbreakable will. Now unbreakable will in this situation is going to be the secret sauce for this gang, because what that does is allow you to transfer your cool as well as willpower stats to fighters within range. Now like I said before, the side guys have a horrible willpower stat of 8+, so they very rarely get their psychic abilities off, but if you pair them up with the Untitled Coven, specifically with the telepath, she can transfer her 5+ willpower stat to those side guys, which means they're going to have a much easier time getting those abilities off and actually being very destructive as well. So because of that, telepath can be very useful for your gang. At the same time, you also get access to the Almiado Null, which are equipped with mesh armor. They have a bolt gun and power sword, so very powerful weapon ability there. They also have a respirator, make it a little more survivable against gas attacks, and they also have a control collar as well. And the reason why they're kind of good is because if you manage to turn off their control collar, two things happen. The telepath can't use their abilities anymore, and the second thing is your psychic null ability takes place, which means that your enemies around you within 6 inches lose -2 to their cool stats, and at the same time, nobody can trigger psychic powers when that person's around. So if you do have enemy psychers in this case, you can actually send the Almiado Null by themselves in order to deal with that person and take away their psychic abilities, and then hopefully assassinate them with the bolt gun as well as the power sword the character has. And of course, if you want to make enemies break easier, they can take away -2 from cool, so all kinds of stuff. To be perfectly honest though, in this build, in this list specifically, you're rarely going to use that ability. You're going to probably use the telepath abilities more, but that's okay though, because the Null's got some pretty powerful weapons. Oh, and they also got the True Git skill as well. So now that we're done talking about your starting roster, let's go on and talk about how you will play this gang on the tabletop. Alright, so let's go on and talk about tabletop tactics real quick for Double Skull Wargaming's Obsidian Syndicate, which is a Genestealer Corrupted House Delaque gang. So as you can see here, I got a little slide right here that's on PowerPoint, just kind of a quick little strip map to pretty much show you exactly how this gang would play directly on the tabletop. So let's pretend you're playing on a 4x4 table represented by this square here, and if your opponent is smart, you'll divide up his army, his gang, into different fire teams, kind of like I have here on this situation. Now when you deploy your gang, what you're going to do is first is have your assault teams, fire teams number 1 and 2, mounted on your custom vehicle. Now assault fire team number 1 will consist of your Nakgul as well as your Onmyoto Telepath, as well as Onmyoto Null will be in this group as well. Same thing with Side Geist number 2 as well as your Aberrant. And assault fire team number 2 consists of your P1, which is going to stand for Phantom number 1, G2 is Ghost number 2, PG is Zeitgeist number 1, as well as S is your Shadow. Now, what you're going to do is have both these assault teams mounted in your custom vehicle, and your support fire teams consist of your Master of Shadow, which is represented by this MOS here, Phantom number 2, which is also the other Phantom armed with the long rifle, as well as Ghost number 1 is your Specialist, also armed with a long rifle. The three of them will be deployed at either side, either the left-hand side or right-hand side, whichever one is more convenient for you, depending on your situation. So as you can see here, pretty much what you can do is you can divide up your fire team into two sides like this. And the reason why you're doing this is because what you're going to do is, as the game develops, what you're going to do is you're going to open fire with your support fire team. Your support fire team will first start off by opening fire, as you can see here in my example using these orange lines here. What they're going to do is they're going to open fire with their weapons directly towards your enemy. That's what they're going to do, okay? And the reason why they're doing that is because they're suppressing one of your enemy fire teams like this, and just basically putting more and more suppressive fire using long rifles to keep this enemy pinned down. Because your Master has that Zen Shootist ability, that the worst you'll be rolling is a 2-up for hit, your Phantom and your Ghost are no slouches either, so you'll be able to put them some long range reliable firepower with their weapons. They also got infra sights, so if your enemy is in partial cover, that's not going to be a problem whatsoever. Now, while they're suppressing this enemy over here on this side, what's going to happen is that your custom vehicle is going to head directly towards an exposed enemy flank, kind of like this. Now, when this happens, what's going to end up happening is you're going to deploy your assault fire teams. So let's go ahead and get this vehicle over a little bit here. So assault fire team number 1, of course, will deploy on one side when they get off the vehicle. Assault fire team number 2 will deploy on another side as well, as you can see in this example here. And they're going to kind of do like this kind of situation here. Now, what's going to happen is this. As you close the distance to your enemy, your custom vehicle is going to open with this heavy flamer, suppressing your enemy fire team here on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, assault fire team number 2 begins their assault first of all. So your Phantom number 1 is going to be here, followed by your Ghost number 2, who is armed with the auto rifle here as well. Same thing with your Zeitgeist number 1. This guy's armed with the flaming pyromancy skills, as well as your Shadow. Now, what these guys are going to do is they're going to swarm directly towards your enemy here and kind of isolate this fire team here on the left hand side to make sure that your enemy won't be able to support this fire team as it's continuing. So let me move that fire team like that, kind of like showing how they're going to assault kind of like this way and directly towards your enemy flank. Okay, and what these guys are going to do for the most part is they're going to come in here and catch this enemy into a crossfire and destroy that fire team that way. Now your custom vehicle is going to set guys on fire using that heavy flamer. While that's happening, of course, you're going to use your Nogul, who's also got that cult icon here, to activate group activations. All right, now this is pretty much what the plan is on this one. Okay, what's going to happen is that your Zeitgeist number 2 is going to use their ability to trigger the telekinesis abilities that they have in order to get the force shield off, so that way everyone's armor save is improved by 1. Now, unfortunately, the Zeitgeist's psychological willpower stat is very low. It's only at an A+. That's why your Omni-Auto Telepath will come in, because they're going to trigger the Unbreakable Will skill. What that's going to do is going to transfer their 5+ willpower to your Zeitgeist in order to make that happen. Okay. Now, while that is occurring, your Omni-Auto Null as well as your Aberrant are going to take point. Is what they're pretty much going to do for this part. What they're going to do is they're going to charge forward and engage enemies in close combat. The Aberrant's really good at close combat. The only Null could actually open fire their bolt gun or power sword. They're very good at that, so they can do that no problem. Meanwhile, what's going to happen is that your Zeitgeist here, as you can see with my little circle icon here, is going to trigger this ability in order to protect their fellow fighters using that shield upgrade. It's going to delete that real fast. So that way they can get that force shield off to protect your characters. Now, as is occurring, of course, your then Zeitgeist can then charge forward, and same thing with your Nogul. Charge forward with their close combat attacks and destroy your enemy that way as well. So the idea is that your support team, Assault Fire Team 902, assaults one half of your enemy forces, while the other half of your forces go in for the kill on that side as well. This is going to require you to use a lot of psychic abilities as well as some reliable long-range fire in order to do so. But at the same time, this Delaque gang is also a little bit different than most gangs because it's a good kind of balance between close combat as well as shooting, so you'll be able to dominate as well. And having those upgrades given to you by the Genestealer cults and having that Genestealer cult corruption taking place in your gang is going to make this very easy for you to do that. And this is pretty much how you use this gang on the tabletop with your tabletop tactics. Now, as the campaign develops, of course, what you're going to want to do first is purchase Psychic Familiars for your Zeitgeist. And the reason why is because it gives them additional save. If they manage to take a willpower test and survive this, they won't get shot at or hurt because the Psychic Familiars will help that with that. At the same time, the Psychic Familiars will also help you to re-roll your failed willpower test for psychic abilities, which is kind of nice as well. I would primarily focus on your psychics for the most part, get them more different powers off for their skills, because these guys are very important for this game build as well. Another big thing you want to think about doing is purchasing weapon shrouds for all of your weapons, so that way your weapons are completely silent, so your enemies have a hard time of finding you, especially when stealth is going to be a big concern for later on in the future as well. And of course, you could always spend your money on upgrading your vehicle. For example, if you wanted to, you could actually get a transport cage for your vehicle, a large one for your medium vehicle. That way your guys are protected as well. Put some fire points in there so that way they can shoot from the vehicle, from inside the vehicle, and cause all kinds of problems for enemy that way as well. So in conclusion, this is actually kind of a fun homage that I made for Double Skull Wargaming. I really like his channel, as well as the content he makes, as well as some of the interesting gang lists he actually has. He has some really cool, fun and pretty fluffy gang lists that he actually has on his channel. And it's kind of neat seeing some of that stuff happening, so it kind of inspired me to actually kind of create this series as well. So if you haven't done so yet, I suggest you go check out that channel, take a look at all the cool stuff that guy is doing. And like I said before, from this point on for my Way of the Underhive, until something major comes down the pipe in terms of like major rule changes or campaign supplements or expansions or whatever, I'm just going to be focusing on more fun and kind of fluffy kind of lists, just making some unique aspects. I will try to make these lists as competitive and as powerful as possible, because that's just the way I roll. But the combinations looking for are something that you don't really see on the tabletop all too often. For example, I'm actually thinking about making a Genestealer Corrupted Corpse Guild Outcast Gang. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to have. Imagine these guys, instead of harvesting bodies to be used for the corpse grinders, what they're actually doing is they're actually stealing these bodies and using them to fuel the Genestealer cult in some way. I think that'd be kind of a fun one as well. If you have any other ideas for some interesting or some fluffy lists that you would like to see, please, by all means, submit a recommendation. Put it in the comments down below. If you want to see something that's really interesting or off the wall, put it down on the list, and I'll see if I can make it happen for you guys and see what kind of other cool kind of things we can come up with on this channel. So there you guys have it. That's good for this one. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blog.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this one, you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.